Good morning, everyone. My name is Sarah Farrow-Crowley, and it's my distinct pleasure to welcome all of you here for Mr. Schwarzenegger's address regarding hate and anti-Semitism. I also have the distinct pleasure of moderating the Q&A a little bit later in the program. But right now, it is my pleasure to introduce Stockton University's president, Dr. Harvey Kesselman.
Hey, how are you? I heard folks have been here since 6:30 in the morning, is that right? That's what I want to hear. Go Stockton Ospreys. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. It gives us great pleasure to formally recognize today's guest by the Stockton University community. This morning, we honor an individual whose artistic career, dedication to public service, and extensive philanthropy exemplify Stockton's values. He is one of the most extraordinary individuals of our time, whose commitment and success in the entertainment industry and his government, public policy, and non-for-profit work has earned him a place among Stockton's finest with an honorary doctoral degree, Doctor of Public Service. Yeah, you can give a round, yeah, make some noise. Your Ospreys, make some noise. He is an individual who has taken his impressive platform within the performing arts and used it to make a positive change, not only in his profession, but with his dedicated philanthropic work in the areas of climate change, anti-hate initiatives, and youth empowerment. Mr. Arnold Schwarzenegger is a true American success story. Born in Austria, he came to the United States as a young man with a dream of becoming the world's greatest bodybuilder. With hard work, dedication, and unrelenting focus on his goals, he achieved that dream and went on to become one of the most iconic movie stars of all time. Another big round of applause for Arnold. Look at this one here. He has also been a dedicated public servant, serving 2 terms as the governor of California, where he worked tirelessly to improve the lives of his constituents and to make California a better place for everyone. He serves as a role model to those who seek to make a real difference in the lives of others. He has inspired us with his work ethic and perseverance, showing us what is possible when we set our sights high and refuse to give up on our dreams. His portfolio boasts extensively of notable achievements off the screen. Here are just a few. The formation of the University of Southern California Schwarzenegger Institute for State and Global Policy, where leaders put people over political parties. We say that again, where leaders put people over political parties and work together to find the best ideas and solutions to benefit the people they serve. The After School All-Stars, which provides free, comprehensive after-school programs in the areas of health and fitness, academic readiness, STEM, and the visual and performing arts, which help to close the opportunity gap for under-resourced students. His collaborative work with the Auschwitz Jewish Center Foundation, supporting their mission of anti-Semitism education to strive to eradicate the types of atrocities that occurred during the Holocaust. He is joining in their efforts to terminate hate. Mr. Schwarzenegger, your record of public and private service embodies the values we hold dear at Stockton University, which makes it a pleasure to award you an honorary Doctor of Public Service. Leo, everyone here? Trustee Chauffeur, it is my distinct pleasure to recommend the conferral of the Doctor of Public Service, honoris causa, upon Mr. Arnold Schwarzenegger, a remarkable entertainer, business person, environmentalist, and philanthropist. He is a distinguished leader and exemplifies a commitment to public service through his continued work in public policy, anti-Semitism, climate change, and youth empowerment. Trustee Chauffeur.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Dr. Kesselman, I accept your nomination of Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger for the Doctor of Public Service with this salutation. The Stockton University Board of Trustees hereby confers upon Arnold Schwarzenegger the degree of Doctor of Public Service with all the rights, honors, and privileges thereunto appertaining.
Look at this. Almost. You want more? Congratulations, Dr. Schwarzenegger. Stockton University warmly welcomes you to our Osprey community. We are proud to count you among the distinguished graduates of this great institution. I will now hand the microphone over to you, sir.
Well, thank you very much for this great applause. This is really fantastic. Thank you so much, Dr. Harvey Kesselman, President of Stockton University, for taking me around the university, giving me a nice tour. I was very impressed with what I saw, so thank you very much for that nice tour and for your nice introduction. Dr. Liam Kohanov, the provost, I want to thank you very much. Then Leon Schöffer, the trustee. Then Ray Ciccone. Where is Ray? He's right here. You look all pumped up today, Ray. You're looking good. I like it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. He's the president of the Board of Trustees and students and faculty. Thank you very much for having me here today. You know, how this whole thing came about was actually really strange because I got a phone call end of September when I came home from a Europe trip. And I got a phone call from Leo. And Leo said to Mrs. Arnold, I want to thank you for going to Auschwitz. This was a fantastic trip. You really put the spotlight on this issue. What a great immigrant you are. What a great American you are. I said, well, thank you very much. This is really kind of you to say all those things. I said, but for me, it was just wonderful. It was a great learning experience. And he said to me, he says, and what I also love about you is, he says, you know, you're a real American. I'm sure you believe in free speech. And I said, yes. And he said, well, good, because you're going to give one on March 6th at the Stockton University. So that's how this whole thing happened. But anyway, so whenever you then go to a university and give a speech, you say to yourself, what am I going to talk about? I'm going to talk about the environment. Am I going to talk about show business? My relationship maybe with Danny DeVito and how we made twins? Or should we talk about politics or whatever it is? I said, but then I decided, let's do something appropriate. I want to talk to you today about the rising hate and anti-Semitism that we have seen all over the world. This is such a very important subject today. You know, a few months ago, I had the pleasure of touring Auschwitz, the Nazi concentration camp, where 1.1 million men, women, and children lost their lives. Think about that. Almost all of them were ruthlessly murdered simply because they were Jewish. When you walk through a place like Auschwitz, you feel a tremendous weight. They remind us everywhere of the horrors that happened there. The suitcases that were never claimed by the prisoners, who were told to remember exactly where they left their belongings so they could retrieve them after they finished their showers. The shoes and the gold teeth and the hair taken from the murdered to be reused by the murderers to fund their evil. The logbooks with thousands of names crossed out as if a cruel accountant only measured death. The gas chambers with scratches on the wall from the fingernails of people who tried to hold on to life. The crematorium, where the Nazis tried to erase all of their atrocities. The weight on your back hits you at the very beginning so heavy, heavier than any squat that I've ever done. And it never goes away. It's the feeling of history, of the millions of voices that were silenced decades ago, begging you not to just look at their shoes, but to spend a few minutes and a few hours in them, to imagine you were actually there. Because once you imagine that you have arrived on that train and you were sorted into those lines and you smelled a smoke that didn't smell like any wood you've ever burned before, and you never saw your families coming out of those showers. And then you worked your ass off while getting almost nothing to eat until you looked more like a ghost than a person. Then when you couldn't work anymore and you were considered useless, they sent you to the showers too. Once you've spent the time to really think about all of those things, then your imagination has no choice but to start the real work. How do we stop this from ever happening again? You know, after a trip to Auschwitz, you will never question why. Never again is the rallying cry of all of the people who fight to prevent another Holocaust. But you know something? Today, I don't want to talk to those people. All of you are doing great work, and I hope that you never give up. I love talking to you and with you. But today, I don't want to preach to the choir. I'm honored to be with all of you here today, but this speech isn't for you. I hope you don't mind. Because I want to talk to the people out there who might have stumbled onto that wrong path. I want to talk to you if you have heard some conspiracy about Jewish people or people of any race or gender orientation and thought, hey, that makes sense to me. I want to talk to you if you found yourself thinking that anyone is inferior or out to get you because of their religion or their color of their skin or their gender. I don't know the road that has brought you here, but I've seen enough people throw away their futures for hateful beliefs. So I want to speak to you before you find the regrets at the end of that path. I've talked a lot about my father and about the broken man I was surrounded by when I grew up in Austria after the Second World War. They drank to numb their pain. Their bodies were riddled with injuries and shrapnel from the evil war. And their hearts and their minds were equally riddled with guilt. Besides the guilt and the injuries, they felt like losers. Losers not only because they lost the war, but also because they fell for a horrible loser ideology. They were lied to and misled to the path that ended in misery. Some of them joined the Nazis because they were filled with hate. Some of them joined because they thought they deserved more in their lives. And they bought into that idea that the only way to make their lives better was to make other lives worse. And some of them joined because they were frustrated with the government, and some of them just joined because everyone else was doing it too. In the end, it didn't really matter why they joined. They were all broken in the same way. If you find yourself at the crossroads, wondering if the path of hate may make sense to you for one reason or the other, or even if wrapping yourself in a flag of hate, I want you to know where that path ends. I want you to see it clearly in your mind. Because throughout history, hate has always been the easy path, the path of least resistance. I get it. It's easier to find scapegoats for problems than it is to try to make things better ourselves. It's easier. But let me be clear, you will not find success on that road. You will not find fulfillment or happiness. Hate burns fast and bright. It may make you feel empowered for a while, but it eventually consumes whatever vessel it fuels. It breaks you. It's the path of the weak. That's why there has never, ever been a successful movement based on hate. Never. Look at the history. The Nazis, losers. The Confederacy, losers. The apartheid movement, losers. And the list goes on and on and on. Now, I don't want you to be a loser. I don't want you to be weak. I've spent most of my life helping people find their strength. Despite all of the things that we might disagree about, and all my friends who may say right now, Arnold, don't talk to those people. It's not worth it. I disagree. I care about you. I think you're worth it. I know nobody is perfect, and I can understand how people can fall into a trap of prejudice and hate. Whether you grow up surrounded by hate or you get sucked into it by some of big tech's algorithms that push you to the extremes, I can see how it happens. As a matter of fact, I think all of us hold some prejudice. And we have to fight it our whole lives. Now, I know this is not the path of the least resistance. It's easy to throw around some bogus science claiming that you're superior to someone else that is actually working on becoming better yourself. It's easier to make excuses that the Jewish people have conspired to hold you back than it is to admit that you just needed to work harder. It is easier to hate than it is to learn. It's easier when someone else challenges you to get hurty feelings and to go and find an echo chamber that will tell you that you're right and that they're wrong. But easier isn't better. No. When you spend your life looking for scapegoats, you take away your own responsibility. You remove your own power. You steal your own strength. Nobody who has chosen the easy path of hate has gotten to the end of that road and said, oh, what a life. Oh, no. No, they die as miserably as they lived. No matter how far you've gone, I want you to know that you still have the chance to choose a life of strength. But you have to give up that war against anyone you hate. Stop that war. Whether you hate them because of their color of the skin, or their religion, or their gender, or their sexual orientation, it doesn't really matter. Give it up. Give up that war. What you have to do is you have to fight a war against yourself. You have to fight a war against yourself. Now, it's not easy to look in the mirror and to change your own life. It's hard as hell. You have to take responsibility. You have to learn new things. You have to feel uncomfortable. Good. Because discomfort is how we grow. It's how we become strong. If you run away from discomfort and resistance your whole life, you will always be weak. Think about the gym. Just think about the gym. That's where I learned most of my lessons. Muscles only grows from resistance. You have to struggle to build strength. The more I force my hand against that steel bar, the bigger the biceps get and the stronger it gets. When I was trying to squat 600 pounds or bench press 500 pounds or deadlift 700, it didn't feel like a walk in a park. It wasn't easy. I can tell you that. It was uncomfortable. It was painful. I mean, look at the photographs. I look like I'm crying out loud in pain because I was struggling. And you know something? That your mind and your character are no different than your body and your muscles. If you want to grow as a person, you have to make friends with pain. You have to embrace discomfort. You have to enjoy the struggle. So, you have two paths in front of you right now. Two paths. One of them is going to be the harder one today. It's going to be downright painful. You will have to force your brain to think in new ways. You might lose some friends who want to hold on to their weak beliefs. But as you pull yourself away from that anger and that hate, I can tell you, eventually you will start to feel empowered. You will realize that you have the greatest power of all, the power to change your own life. You will be stronger than you have ever known. But the other path is easy. You don't have to change anything. Everything in your life that you aren't happy about can be someone else's fault. You can keep fueling yourself on the sugar high of hate. But on the end of that road, it's not pretty. I've seen it with my own eyes. You will end up broken, searching for ways to numb your pain and your misery. See, I don't want you to go through that. You know something? When I walked through the camp at Auschwitz, and I put myself in the shoes of those people herded into those gas chambers, it was horrifying. One of the darkest moments in my life. But in that darkness, a woman who survived the horrors of Auschwitz helped me find the light. Wonderful woman that I talked to for half an hour. She told me that the Nazis could conquer cities and countries. They could take her freedom, her friends, her family, and her life. But they could never, ever conquer her mind. They could never conquer her mind. What strength that woman had. So I don't really care how many hateful things you may have written online. I don't care how often you have marched carrying that hateful flag, or what hateful things you may have said in anger. There is still hope for you. There is still time for you. So I say, choose strength. Choose life. Conquer your mind. You can do it. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Governor Schwarzenegger. Yeah, thank you very much. I now have the distinct honor of moderating the question and answer part of the program, and we have questions that have been submitted by our students. The first one is, why have you chosen to visit Stockton University and other college communities with your message?
Well, the Stockton University is known for its work about studying the Holocaust and to fight prejudice and hate and to fight for inclusion. So it is just a wonderful message, and this university is very clear about that. So when I got the invitation to come here, I accepted it immediately because it's such a wonderful place. And now, having had the opportunity to get a little mini tour, I just loved everything I saw. And then to meet the survivors here today, I mean, I tell you, for me, this is so enriching, such an enriching experience. I will never forget that. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Could you tell us a little bit more about what motivated you to begin your campaign against anti-Semitism?
Well, that actually happened by total coincidence, to tell you. I went to a fundraiser and to an awards show where they awarded Jane Fonda. This was in the mid-'80s or beginning of '80s. And so I went into that awards ceremony, and I found out it was from the Simon Wiesenthal Center. They organized it. And then at that awards ceremony, Rabbi Heyer and Rabbi May and Rabbi Cooper came up and cornered me in their traditional way. And they said, "Arnold, we love your movies." They said the right things. "You have such unbelievable muscles." "And you're fantastic, you look so studly on the screen." So all the right things they said. So I right away got kind of sucked in. And then they said, "But we need some help. I said, what help do you need? And he says, well, because can we set up a meeting with you in your office? I said, of course. So we set up the meeting, and we met a week later. And then they told me they wanted some help from me to get the Hollywood community involved in the Simon Wiesenthal Center, in the museum, because they wanted to build a museum, a huge museum in Beverly Hills. And I said, this is really odd. I said, isn't Hollywood already participating? No, they just buy a chair when we have an event or a table or something like this, but not really millions of dollars that we really need. So I said, okay. So I started helping them to get the Hollywood community involved, from Spielberg all the way up, Scheinbergs and all the various different people that led studios that were really famous, that had money, that had influence and all that stuff. And so within a short period of time, they raised a lot of money and they built the Simon Wiesenthal Center. So I, of course, went there regularly for the inspections of the building, crawled around on the steel girders on top with the hard hat and all that stuff, and really want to make sure that this is going to be a great center. And so I got involved then with every fundraiser that they had and every event that they had. As a matter of fact, so much so that when I was governor of the state of California, the first trip I took was to Israel to do an opening or groundbreaking, I should say, ceremony for the Simon Wiesenthal Center to build a museum of tolerance in Jerusalem. So there I was as the governor, and the people all said, what kind of a governor is there? The first trip is to Israel? What about Mexico? What about Canada? And all that, they couldn't understand it. I said, well, that's a previous promise that I've made the rabbi higher, and you don't ever break a promise that you make the rabbi higher. I said, so that's why I went there for this ceremony. So it went on and on, my interest. And the more I got involved in this, the more I realized how important it is, that message, that the previous generation was involved in those atrocities, and that this generation is against all of that and is for tolerance. So, and I had on top of it, I had this huge platform, being a bodybuilding champion and an actor and the national movie star and all this. I said to myself, better use this platform for something really good. And so I went around the world talking about tolerance and about inclusion and about the anti-hate and all of those kind of messages. And so it was something that I just got, one thing led to the next, and now I'm just fully involved, as much as I am with environmental causes or fitness causes and all this stuff. It's just fun to fight for something that is much bigger than yourself. You know, to me, you know, my beginning of my life was all about me. I got to build my body. I got to get a big triceps. I got to get bigger biceps and all of those kind of things. But then eventually you get to the stage where you say, I got to do things now that is for the world, for peace, for clean air, so we don't have 7 million people die because of pollution. Let's go and fight this. So I'm now fighting against all of those things that I think are evil and bad in the world. And so it has been really a lot of fun for me, very challenging, very educational at the same time.
Thank you. We'll switch gears a little bit with this next question. Over the course of your career, you've been incredibly successful on a variety of fronts. Who has mentored you along the way?
Well, there was a lot of people. I mean, I had mentors and idols. You know, my idols were, you know, President Gorbachev, President Reagan, Mandela, Yuri Vlasov, a weightlifter, Reg Park, who was one of my great inspirations, who was a Hercules in the movies that inspired me to start with the weight training, with bodybuilding, and all of that stuff. And then also on a local level, in Austria, when I grew up, I mean, my parents were fantastic. They gave me the discipline, so much so that I ran away from home and I'm in America. Otherwise, I would have never gotten to America. So I thank them for creating a certain childhood that they didn't like, so that they ran away and they came to America. So I have to thank them also. And there was, you know, the trainers. Like there was a guy by the name of Kurt Manor that was the trainer there at the weightlifting club that really had the patience always for us to train us. And then there was a guy by the name of Freddy Gerstel, who was, I thought he was like Catholic because he went to church, but he was actually a Jew. And he told me his story about how his brother got stoned to death by the Nazis. And horrible things happened. His whole family was wiped out and all this stuff. And for some miracle reason he was able to escape, because there was one higher up office in a Nazi party that said, get them out of here, and gave them a pass to leave. So there was a fortunate situation. So anyway, so he became a big mentor of mine because he was so much into kids. And he was a politician, a local politician in Graz in Austria. And he always made sure that we had trophies for our competitions, that we had the money to go and grow as a club, as a weightlifting club and all that. And he taught me so much about tolerance and about inclusion. And he always taught me about education. He says, just remember, Arnold, one day you will lose those muscles. One day you can lose your money. But there's one thing you will never lose, and this is your brain. So make sure to get smart. Read, read, read. Build your mind. Build your mind. Get smart. And this is what he always talked about. And he always ran around with books and gave us books and stuff like that. So he was a wonderful role model for us. And he passed away since then. He passed away at the age of 95 or so. But he was just someone that was extraordinary and had a profound impact on me. And there's not a day I don't think about him. So he was really fantastic. And his son is still alive, and he's terrific, and we communicate. But Freddie Gerstel was an absolute jewel.
Thank you. So our final question today is, what leadership advice do you have for the students who are here with us today?
Well, I was talking to a guy who is in charge of social media here. Where is he? Over there. What's your name? Flynn. Flynn. He graduated and he got his master's degree, or he graduated in communication. And I said to him the day when we talked and chatted a little bit out there, I said to him, you studied the right thing. Because communication is one of the most important things in life. No matter what you do, it doesn't matter if you're a painter, or if you're an athlete, or if you're a professor, or if you're a teacher. It doesn't make any difference what you do. You have to communicate, the art of communication. To have a business, you have to be able to sell. Well, the only way you can really sell is through communicating the right way. And I was an apprentice to become a salesperson. So I know how important it is to sell and to communicate and to find exactly the right person to communicate to. When 3 people come into your store, who is the one that is the leader? And to pick right away that person and then to go and sell to that person. So all of those things that I learned, and I never realized when I was an apprentice how important selling is and how important communicating is. And so to me, I think leadership is all about communicating. I mean, I tell you that if you can communicate your vision, if you have a very clear vision in your mind of which direction you want to go and what you want to accomplish, and you can communicate that vision, people will follow you. And this is what happened to me when I ran for governor of California, for instance. I didn't have any political experience. I did not start as a mayor, and then as a state senator or as an assemblyman or anything like that, like they suggested I should do. And they all said, you will never make it because there's no way that you can just go from Terminator 3 now into becoming governor of the great state of California. But I had a very, very clear vision of what we needed to do in California to get out of that hole that we were in. We were in a recession, we had blackouts, and we had people leaving the state. Businesses were leaving the state, that it was too expensive to do business there with the workers' compensation costs and all of this stuff. Crime rate was going up, and so people were leaving, and they were really upset. And we had fires left and right, and we're not prepared for this fire. So I just went out there, and I told the people the kind of state that I see in front of me. And if you elect me, I said, I'm not a political hack, I told them. I will not do business as usual. I said, I'm a Republican. I said, but when it comes to leading and serving you, I will serve everybody. If you decline to state, independent, Democrat, or Republican, I say, I'm not serving the party. I'm going to serve you. And so the people... So the people never heard that. They only heard about the Democrats are bad and the Republicans are bad, and they were accusing each other of things, and there was no togetherness. So I presented my vision, and this is how I went into the debates when they thought I'm going to fail terribly at the debates because of the substance and all those things. Well, I won. You know, I got 60% of the votes. I mean, so this just shows to you that if you show leadership and if you show a vision, because the most important thing when I always talk to people when I do speeches about success and how to do motivational speeches and so on, I always tell them the most important thing in life that you have a vision. If you have no vision, you don't know where to go. You can have the best airplane in the world, but if the pilot does not know where to go, then he's going to crash eventually. So this is why it's the same with us in life. We got to have a very clear purpose. So when a student comes in here into this university, he or she has to say, I want to study X, Y, and Z. And then you take the classes accordingly. That gets you there and then gets you to graduate eventually. If you want to be a medical student, you have to have a program that goes on for 14 years. But you have to have a clear vision. You just can't stumble around from one day to the next. So that's why I say to people, think about what you want to do. Turn off your phones. Turn off your iPads. Turn off your computers. Turn off all of those devices. Turn it off. As important as they may are, but turn it off. That was my advantage that I had when I grew up. It was quiet. We had no TV. We just had a radio in the house. There was no phone. There was nothing. And so I had time to think. And when I had time to think, I formulated, I want to go to America. I want to be a bodybuilding champion. I want to be in the movies. I want to be rich and famous. I want to crush it. And and I really created this picture for myself that I chased for years and years and years. And every time I walked into the gym and then in a 500 bench press or 500 squats or whatever it was, I was happy. The other guys all looked depressed. Oh my God, I have to do another sit-up. No, for me, it was I want to do another sit-up because it gets me one step closer to that goal, to that vision, to turn that into reality. So there was a motivation, there was a purpose there. So this is what leadership is all about, is you have a vision, then you communicate that well, it comes in with communicating and all of this stuff, and then you can bring anyone along and lead. And hopefully you lead them in a good direction, not in a bad direction. That's the important thing.
Thank you, Governor Schwarzenegger. We are profoundly grateful that you joined us here today. I'd like to ask Dr. Kesselman to come back up to the stage, please.
We got some goodies. Leadership, vision, perseverance. He exemplifies it as much as anyone you will ever meet in your lives. Give him another huge osprey. Got some gifts for you, sir. And I agree with you about communication. Am I supposed to take them out for him? Okay, I'm going to give them to you. And there was a couple in here. There's one particularly that I'll give you last, okay? Which is always great. So far with it. Okay, we'll put that here. This is a Stockton coin that you will find to be beautiful, and one that we've only had just about 100 done, and that's all that's going to be done. So that's on behalf of us.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Oh, no, that's not the coin. What is that? Whatever. This is, okay, what is this? I'm not communicating so well, am I? Oh, I know what this is. You get this
doing
last.
a great job.
What is in here?
I know what it is. It's a vitamins and protein powder.
You're close. All right. You can only get this gift here on the Stockton University campus. It's called Stockton Maple Syrup for you. That was produced here.
Very nice. Thank you very much.
This is the official end of this presentation. Another. Let's give him a standing ovation. Let's go. Osprey.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Now let's get to the chopper.